Welcome to She's a Phoenix with Natasha Lynn. Hey guys, we're back for another episode. And guess what? I have successfully recorded. This is my second one in 1 week, which is what I've been trying to do the whole time. Anyways, I love just like talking, and sometimes I feel like, God, they're on the other end of this. I hope they're not totally completely bored. I feel like you guys just need to know, like, be in my loop. Like, you're my personal friend. I'm sharing my journey with you. Like, come along, know my life, know how I am. We're building a bond here, whether you think so or not. Like, you are listening to me, trusting me, hopefully learning from my mistakes, finding things to help you keep moving forward. Whatever it is, moving through the things. Maybe you're just here to make fun of me. Who knows? But regardless, you're here. So hi. Did I say welcome to She's the Phoenix? I know I did. But yeah. She's a Phoenix is not really just about me rising up. It's about everybody rising up. It's about rebirth. It's about finding yourself in a way to live again. It's about not letting tragedy take over your life. It's about taking all the broken pieces and putting them back together better than they ever could have been. It's a lot of things, and it's not just about me. It's about all of us. It's about all of us finding our way. I don't know why, but I felt like I needed to share that. Fun fact, I have the cover, my podcast cover photo. I have a canvas of it, just a small one hanging up in the room I record. And I look right at it every single time that I record. And it reminds me of a very vulnerable moment in my life, and also a moment where I decided that I was still worth it to live. And to be. Because there's this part in grief where you just, in the beginning, I feel like it matters who dies, so don't take this wrong, but it doesn't matter if it's your spouse or your grandparent or who it is, really. If it was somebody who was close to you, it could be your best friend, it could be your parent, it could be a child, there's this point where you just feel like you don't want to live, like you just don't want to fucking breathe anymore. And people just say, you just gotta keep going, you just gotta move on. And that's just one of the worst things that we could ever say to somebody. And just that picture always reminds me of, like, it was a photo shoot of me and my husband's ashes, and it was so significant to me because it was me, like, not just acknowledging that he's gone, acknowledging that I'm a widow, acknowledging that I still look for him and everything, in the breeze, in the sun, in the wind, just everything, the little things in nature. I look for signs of him everywhere. And I think we all kind of do that, when you lose someone, you look for the things that make you feel like maybe for a moment you're connected to them again, or like they're there with you, And who knows if it's real or not. I believe it is, but we all have our own thought process on that. Anyways, we're going to talk about what it's like when we're talking about grief today, y'all. We're talking about, not really grief, we're talking about what happens when a parent dies and the other parent starts fucking dating. Okay? There's a lot of us out there who need to talk about it, and we aren't talking about it, okay? And there's some parents that need to hear, like, the perspective that's going on with y'all's kids. Even if we're grown-ass adults, like, you need to understand where we're coming from, but also at the same time, we need to start remembering to give some grace, okay? we get so wrapped up in the idea that parents are just parents and they're not humans too, and they're not going to make decisions based out of being a human, that they're always going to make their decisions based out of being a parent, and that is not true. It's not possible, because they're only human, kind of like you are. And then, you know, if you're a parent yourself, you can understand this, because not every single choice that you make at every single time and every single moment of the day is based off of what's going to make you the best parent for your child. Okay? Sometimes you just are making the choices of what's best for you, and that doesn't make you a bad parent. Okay? It makes you human. It makes you normal. It makes you it makes you your own person, not just mom, not just dad. And I think that, like, that gets lost in, you know, in the midst of the grief. We forget that our mom and dads are humans too, you know? And we all process this thing called grief differently. And I truly can tell you, I mean, there are some wrong ways to do grief, you know, clearly wrong ways. Using substances, you know, probably one of the biggest ones to handle the grief, is, you know, just, there's a lot of reckless ways that you can go about grief, but there's also a lot of ways that are kind of wild and hard, because some people grieve for years, and some people grieve for what feels like moments, and then are like moving on to another chapter so quickly that it's kind of freaky. You know, and then we judge it because like, how could they, why do they not miss that person more? You know, so I've always told my family that when I started these podcasts, they better be prepared, because I'm going to put their shit on blast, in my perspective, and that's just how it's going to be, and nobody's going to tell me that I can't, because it's my story to tell, and y'all need to hear it. So, you know, the crazy thing about what happened with my parents is that, one, most of you know now, my dad was an addict. He was heavy in his addiction when he died. He had switched how he used. He changed it up to a much harder version, probably, you know, the worst way that you could use. And it literally took him, I don't even think it was 2 months, from going from one way to another, if I remember correctly. Sorry, I'm trying to backtrack in my mind, and I built walls so strongly and blockers for most of my childhood and even into some adulthood that, like, sometimes it's really hard for me to even process a memory, like, to get back to it. Like, I have it so far blocked out that it's kind of scary. One day I wonder, you know, if the floodgates will open back up. But anyways, if you ever hear me stop for a minute and kind of say, like, I'm trying to go through my brain and get to the memory, and it's not that easy for me because of all the blockers. I protected myself, you know, as much as I could. Well, I thought I was, but now I'm learning that, I mean, I did protect myself as best I could, but now I'm trying to reopen those memories and wounds and unlock all that stuff so that I can heal. Anyways, so yeah, there became a point where you also know my husband died. So after my husband died, my dad really could not handle he couldn't handle what was happening. It was really weird. I'm gonna go on a little bit of a conspiracy theory here. It's not really conspiracy theory. This is just truly what I believe happened. I believe my dad and my husband had a soul bond. You can say what you want about this. I don't care. I believe they had a soul bond. I believe that when my husband's soul contract was up, my dad knew that his was coming to an end. One day I will jump down this rabbit hole deep with you guys, but that is not the point of this one, okay? But I want you to know a little pretext, okay? Because it's important to the buildup of my mom dating so quickly. We're actually getting engaged and getting married so quickly after my dad passed. But okay, so my dad was an addict. My dad struggled. The struggle became very real. I mean, it was always real, but it was intensified times 1,000,000 after my husband died. Um, my whole family just fell apart. They just know it was one of the truly the loss of Curtis, my late husband, was so profound in my family. I think it almost initially was harder for all of us to process than when we lost my dad. And I think that that also comes from the fact that we had no idea we were going to lose my husband. We had no clue. You know, there's always that, you're always subconsciously and fearfully try to be prepared for the worst when you have an addict who can't stop using in your life. But my husband wasn't one, and that, you know. So anyways, my dad just went down this crazy rabbit hole and couldn't stop. You know, he tried to help me with a lot of stuff, a lot of court stuff, all kinds of stuff, but he was struggling so bad. And then finally, several months before my dad died, it was so unsafe for my mom to be with him. The drugs made my dad obsessive over my mom in a very scary way. And I wanted to at least, I know this sounds fucked up, but it's the truth. I wanted to have at least one parent still. And I was terrified that if my mom were to stay, that I would end up an orphan at 25 years old, 24, in my 20s. I felt like in my 20s I was going to end up being an orphan. And it was fucking terrifying and scary and hard and infuriating and a lot of things. But anyways, so my mom stayed somewhere else and didn't tell me, and she stayed with her mom. She kind of ping-ponged to a couple different places and wasn't really telling me that she wasn't staying at home, and I wasn't living at home because, you know, I was having, like, I had like a little boy I was raising, my son, and then I was in a relationship again at this point. And we had our own home. And so, you know, and I have step babies now, and, you know, I had life. But I was very, we talked about this, like, hyper independent, wildly codependent relationship last week. Wildly codependent on my parents still, even being in a new relationship. Anyways, so mom moves in with me because, sorry, I had coffee and now I'm just like burping a bunch of, anyways. Yeah, mom lived with me because dad wasn't safe. That's the truth. Dad wasn't safe to anybody. And and that didn't mean we gave up on him. We just left him for the worst. My brother was there every morning. You know, we were talking on the phone. We were calling. We allowed him to come to my house even when he wasn't in the best state. There were rules. I made big rules. He hated it. I made rules about he couldn't be there when my boyfriend's kids were there because that wasn't fair to them. And bless their mom's hearts, you know, they were so kind and understanding, but their babies were, you know, it wasn't my choice. It shouldn't have been my choice to put their babies in a space that just wasn't healthy. Anyway, so that's where we were, you know, when my mom and dad were still married, but it was to the point where my mom's safety was truly on the line. And yeah, so I think that pretext kind of helps, though, understanding when I talk about when she started dating and when she got engaged and when she got married after my dad died. Because obviously that isn't the same for everybody. You know, there's a lot of people in the world who did not have a story like that at all when their parent died, and their parent that was still alive moved on, okay? But regardless of what happened beforehand, let's just talk about what it's like when it happens. When the living parent decides to date or get remarried, and it happens rather quickly. So my mom, you know, had been with my dad since she was 16, okay? And for me, that meant, oh boy, this lady does not know what's about to come her way. And you know how I know this? Because my husband died. And I know what my inboxes and my messages looked like after my husband died. It was gross. If we're being honest, it was pretty gross. There are men in this world that, I don't even want to call them men. There are boys in this world that just don't even have a fucking clue or filter or anything. And with me being protective of our mom, like I was raised to be, you know, my dad basically was always like, protect. We protect this family at all costs. We protect this family at all costs. We protect this family at all costs. Even though he would hurt us continuously and do other things, but we were supposed to protect each other. Anyways, so I was scared. I was like, oh my God, you know, and then like a friend from her past who, you know, came to my dad's celebration, who was literally just a friend, but I'm like, I'm watching you, bud. Don't care who the fuck you think you are. I'm watching you. Like, you think you're gonna make one move towards my mom that I don't like? It ain't happening, because I control this shit. And yeah, it nothing happened. Yeah. So my mom didn't want anything to happen, you know? She wasn't like out there trying to like get, she was, I think it's funny because everybody was like, oh wow, you know, maybe she cheated, or, you know, there's that pretext again of what was happening. My mom wasn't fucking cheating on my dad. My mom wasn't doing anything wrong to my dad. Okay? My mom was trying to keep herself alive and keep him alive. And it was fucking exhausting. It was exhausting to watch. I watched her fall apart and things I couldn't even imagine. I mean, I can because I saw them, but there's things that I can't even imagine that I know happened. Anyways, so she grieved. And then, you know, a couple months went by, and, you know, we were trying to figure out living situations and all this different stuff, and somebody that she went to school with when she was young, you know, she was in middle school, moved back home in this process, and in no way, shape, or form was trying to be anything other than maybe a friend, you know, to my mom. And I met him, so I knew that, you know, he was a good guy. So I invited him to dinner, you know, at my house and stuff, because I knew my mom felt weird just like even having dinner with a old friend that was a male. Like, that was just not something that she did. So some could say that I opened the can of worms. But here's what I didn't know. I didn't know that dinner was going to lead to them being engaged, you know, 4 months after my dad died. I didn't fucking know that, okay? And it was not easy. And it wasn't because he was a bad guy. It was because it was not fucking easy. My parents were together, they were together since my mom was 16. My mom had me when she was 18. That's 27 years that they were together, you know, my whole life. And now, all of a sudden, if my dad's been gone 4 months, I'm not even processing it yet, and my mom's engaged. And then what do you do with that? What do you do with that? What do you do with, you know, you're like, how? Did you just forget? Hello? Did you just fucking forget that he's gone? Like, we're all here, like, trying to, like, scraped together and you're just like out there living your life. Like to me and my brother, it was like, I don't want to put words in my brother's mouth, but I'm pretty sure he would agree with me on this. We were kind of just like, what the fuck? Like, that's truly what we were like, you know. And there are situations and weird things that went down, and like there's questions, you know. Okay, so should the kids have been asked? Like, should me and my brother felt like we should have been included. We should have known. We should have been talked to before they got engaged. There should have been conversation. You know, because not only that, like, he was staying the night and we were all back in our old house. And just so you understand this, it's a big ass house that we used to live in. It's 8-bedroom house, okay? Not just like 8-bedroom house, but like 5 bedrooms downstairs, 3 bedrooms upstairs. My mom's bedroom was like almost the size of a studio apartment. Okay? It was a huge house. But it was still 3 adult couples plus my brother's friends, 1 or 2 of them, I think, living there. Okay? So, yeah, it wasn't easy. It wasn't fucking easy. We were all grieving, you know. So my brother, his girlfriend, fiance, I can't remember exactly. They were girlfriend, fiance, you know, at that time. And then they had a baby. She was pregnant too. And then, or no, like, not they had a baby and she was pregnant, like they have one sole child. But anyways, you know, like, we're all living here, and now all of a sudden us, you know, we have our adult lives happening inside the same house. My mom's also an adult grieving, and now she's getting engaged, and this guy kind of lives here, and we're kind of all like trying to navigate this really fucking heavy grief inside of the house where we all had lived for the past 13 years of our lives. Did I mention that my dad totally destroyed my mom's vanity and like all this stuff inside of the bedroom? Like, there was a whole part of the bathroom that was absolutely destroyed. There was shit everywhere. It was insane. He shattered the door to the actually, you know, to be honest, I believe the officers said that it looked like it was shot, which is crazy because he didn't get hurt, but how he shot into their walk-in shower, like, it's just not a scenario where you don't really get, like, it should have ricocheted, you know, like, there's things that should happen that didn't. So there's like broken glass, there's just like all this stuff, right? So we're living inside, and then my dad was high, and when he left the house, and when he died, okay, so my dad he committed suicide. Sorry, that's really fucking hard to say. He was the strongest man I know. But like, so he committed suicide on the road that we lived on. I don't know if you know this or not, but most of the cleanup crews, I don't fucking know, but both of the scenes I've been at where, you know, my husband was killed, he was murdered, and then where my dad died, like, we found stuff, you know, that we shouldn't have found at both scenes. I'm not going to talk about what we found at my husband's scene, but the drain, there's blood stains on the drain, you know, by where my dad shot himself. So like, we live in this house where he went crazy, he lost it, he left, he's on the road, he killed himself on that road. Side note, bless the neighbor's heart that he did it, the house he did it in front of, because her husband killed himself at her home, and then she was awake when my dad did what he did. So that is wonderful for her. I'm incredibly sorry that she even had to be awake during that. But like, so yeah, there's just like this huge drama, and my mom's getting engaged. We're like, what in the fuck is happening? So we weren't like, no, we hate this guy, but we were like, why the fuck right now are you doing this? No. 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 This was not, you didn't, we are not ready. And we weren't. We weren't ready. And I'll tell you that between losing my dad and my mom getting remarried, it fucked us up. And we weren't okay as a family unit. Me, my mom, and my brother, we weren't okay. I'll tell you the truth, we all of our families can be in the same room. We get along, we do holidays, or do barbecue, whatever, whenever it happens, or we need to. But it ain't like what it was when my dad was here. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of unspoken words, and there's been a lot of angry words spoken. Now, I'm the peacekeeper and the people pleaser and the keep the glue together kid, because I was trained to be. Working on not being that person anymore and letting it be what the fuck it is between my mom and my brother. Not that it's bad. I still talk every day. And they still talk to me about each other all the time too. Working on that boundary as well. But it's just different, you know? It's way different. There's a lot of anger. What do you do? What do you do? What am I supposed to be? Were we supposed to, do we have a right to be mad? Did we have a right to want to know? Did we have a right to feel like we should have been asked? Because truly, when my mom's mom was still alive, which is just a whole other thing, he asked my mom's mom. He did the traditional thing, and my mom's mom said yes. So, and I think that the feelings were valid no matter what. And that's something that you need to know. Even if you're fucking angry about your parent being dead and your other parent moving on, it's okay. It's normal. And your parent is still going to do whatever they want to, because once again, they're human, They have human emotion. They're going to grieve different than you're going to grieve. Y'all aren't going to grieve the same way. It'd be kind of weird if you did. You ain't going to grieve your dad the same way that she's going to grieve her husband. Two different fucking relationships, okay? Here's what I'll tell you that I did. I decided I would not be okay with not talking about my dad. I'm going to talk about my dad. I'm openly going to talk about my dad. He's my dad. I don't need another dad, because I had a dad for 25 years. He was not the world's best dad. He was still my best friend. One of them. My mom and dad were always my best friends. But, when it comes to it's fucking weird too, because you feel like you got this loyalty. Like, I got this loyalty to my dad, and he is dead. And he broke the promise in my head that I thought he made to me, And so there, I'm trying to grieve my dad, obviously, which comes with a promise and all that. I'm trying to understand how to accept it. And you know what? If you can't accept it, that's okay. But what you don't do is you don't keep using your parent as a punching bag because you can't accept what they're doing and how they're grieving. You don't have to agree with it, but you also need to realize that you're probably going to end up grieving your alive parent too. Okay? And even if you do try to be accepting of it and understanding, you're still going to fucking grieve the alive parent, because that parent is going to 100% change. At least in my experience, the core of my mom is there, but the grief changed her too. It changed all of us. And I didn't experience her relationship with my dad. So I don't know, the depth of her grief. And even if I had, I still wouldn't know, because I'm not her. I'm not her body. I'm not her soul. I'm not her mind. I'm not the one who gets to grieve how she grieves. She gets to grieve how she wants to grieve. And I think that sometimes we forget that. We don't just get to decide for our parents how they're going to grieve, when the time frame is. Like, nobody maybe they did, but nobody should get to choose the timeline on how you grieve, how you move through stuff, when you show up, when you change. You don't get to decide when they move forward, or how slow or how fast or any of that. You don't. You just get to decide how you're going to handle it and how you're going to deal with it. And if it feels very toxic to you and it feels like what's happening is that your insides are like, nope, I don't fucking like this, and I don't want to like this, and I don't like this person. And there are people that come in and they don't want to hear about the dead person. They don't want to hear about how your dad is dead, or they don't want to hear about your dead husband. Those people can fuck off, okay? And if your parent or you keep somebody around who isn't okay listening to you grieve and being aware of the fact that you are grieving, I'm sorry, but you're setting yourself up for failure. You're going to be a basket case. 1. And 2, if you want to keep that person around, don't fucking expect anybody else who truly is grieving to stick around, because they're not going to. Okay? You get to make your decision, but so does everybody else who's grieving. And at some points, I couldn't even have, I'd be so angry, and I didn't even know where to point the anger. Am I angry at my mom? Am I angry at my dad? Am I angry at this man in my mom's life? Who am I angry at? Am I angry at myself? I think it was a little bit of everything. How do you move through it? How do you accept it? How do you not accept it? How do you set fucking boundaries? There's so many things that come into it. There's the resentment of the live parent doing whatever they're gonna do, and then you thinking in your head, well, if this parent was alive and you were gone, this wouldn't happen. Do you know what would happen if my mom was the one who died and my dad was here? I don't even know if I'd see him. I don't even fucking know. I have no idea. In the most hopeful part of my brain, I hope that my dad would have got clean for me and my son and my brother. But do I, in my, track record of looking at his life, believe that probably would have happened? No, I don't. I don't fucking think that at all. I don't even think I'd get to have a relationship with him. And I have no idea if that man would have moved on from my mom, or when he, would have gotten in a new relationship, or how soon, or how long, or any of that stuff. No idea. Not a fucking clue, okay? But I'd like to think he'd just be sad for a long time and he'd just be here. That is bullshit. It is, because his track record of when he was alive does not say that any of that shit that I think or would want to happen would have happened. And my mom is in no way a bad mother. She's not a bad mom. She's a woman and a broken little girl who went through shit, that tried to raise kids to be more resilient than her, to not have as much trauma as her, she didn't even have anybody there to support or work through the trauma that she had until now. Right now, my mom is going through trauma therapy, okay? And she's had counselors. But right now is now when she's really working through a bunch of the trauma of her childhood, her losses. Both of her biological parents are dead. And then the man her mom married, which is her younger 3, not their one of them, it's their biological dad. The other 2 was stepdad. So it was stepdad to 4 of the 5 girls that my granny had. But my mom and her oldest sister, I don't really know if they called, his name was Rick. I don't know if they really called him their dad or not. I know that Heather, the oldest, didn't, but my mom's, it was just weird. Anyways, and he's gone too. Okay, so my mom's blood, biological dad, she didn't even get to say goodbye to him. Found out like a month after he passed that he passed, when she was trying to reach out and talk to him. And then also found out a lot of other things that were just really fucked up and shitty. And then my granny passed away. And before my granny passed away, my grandpa Rick, my granny's husband, passed away. Yeah, so also during all of this time where my dad's dead, my husband's dead, my mom's close to my husband, my mom obviously was married to my dad, and then she's now like in a new relationship, getting married. Her mom's going through cancer, and then also now dying from cancer. Like, there was like a lot of shit happening. Her dad, her real biological dad, is dead. Found out he got clean, was like helping his girlfriend raise her grandkid, well, like had a relationship with her grandkids and her kids, and like just a lot of shit that just sucked, you know. And then here I am, like, you shouldn't. How fair is it for me to be like, no, Mom, you need to be by yourself and be miserable because I wasn't ready for you to move forward? Does it mean I fucking agree with it? Does it mean that I don't, like, I'm just all, you know, sunshine and roses about it every time? No. And it's okay if you're not. It's okay. It's okay to feel like you're angry. It's okay to feel like, I mean, one of the biggest things I think for me was feeling like I lost my mom too. Especially because when they moved on so fast, it's like, hello, like that person, our other parent just died, and now you're just like gonna go get in this new relationship that's gonna take up all your time, and I'm over here just like, I don't care if I'm a whole ass adult, like, so now I have to lose you too, and I already was losing you regardless of this new person coming into your life, because that whole mom and person that you were when my dad was here is not, she can't be that person anymore. You can't be the person that you were with someone when they're gone. You know what I'm saying? I can't be Curtis's wife or Bob's daughter. I can't. I mean, I'm always going to be those things, but it's different now. It's different. I don't just get like, I'm not Bob's daughter, the guy who always recovers and helps so many people and he's so kind. And yes, I still am that person, but I'm also Bob's daughter, the girl who had her dad commit suicide, and he's just another statistic to add to the fucking books about what happens when you use and you relapse. Fuck you, by the way. If you add into that statistic, you can eat a dick. That's how I feel about it, and I don't care if that upset you on my podcast. It makes me angry. My dad was a hell of a lot more than some stupid statistic. Anyways. So there's like the resentment that starts to build because now they're in this relationship with somebody else and they are moving forward. And you're like, what, like, boundaries. That's all I can say over and over and over. Boundaries. Write it down. Don't just say it to yourself. I'm not going to let this happen. Sit down and start journaling, okay? I know it sucks. If you can't journal, record yourself talking and listen to it, or like hit that talk to text button and talk and let it text it out for you. And then guess what? When you don't want to read it, most phones now you can highlight all that shit and hit speak and it'll read it to you, so you don't even have to read what you talk to text it, okay? But be honest with yourself. Sit down and make the boundaries with yourself first about what you're going to be okay with, what you're not going to be okay with, where your loyalty lies, how you feel comfortable moving forward, because you now get to have to choose to have a relationship or not have a relationship with a person that your parent is now in a relationship with. And every person moving forward, for me, obviously it's different because my mom just went and got engaged and they're still married. And she didn't just, I hate saying like she just went and got engaged, but in a way that's really what it felt like. And she's still very much grieving my dad, you know. She's a very different human being. Her grieving is different than other people's grieving. You know, it was 9 months after my husband died. And I think that this really gave me perspective and compassion and made it a little bit easier for me to understand what my mom was doing when she was making these wild, big, quick decisions that they suggest you don't do in the first year of grief. Because, 9 months after my husband died was when I very slowly started to spend time with my husband now. And I was not good. I was not in a place where I think that I should have just been keeping to myself and being a mama and trying to just heal myself to be a better mama. But I knew what it was like. I knew the criticism that came with it. I knew the judgment. I knew the anger. I knew the frustration. I could feel it. I could see it. I got it. I got it from every which way. And people can say that they didn't say it or they didn't act a certain way. Maybe they didn't say it to my face, or maybe they didn't think they acted that way to me or whatever. But the dynamic of so many different relationships of mine changed severely or ceased to exist when I finally openly said I was in a relationship again. And that was 9 months after my husband died. And that's really soon for a lot of people too. 9 months. It's a lot sooner than most. I did not get married until this last December. So I was in a relationship for a long time before I committed to getting married again. I couldn't. I was pissed. I was angry, and I didn't want to get married ever again. There was a lot to that. So I did know that, I knew what it was like to do something that felt scary, even though I didn't feel okay that I was laughing, and I was worried that everybody, like, I was laughing with my husband now, and I was happy in moments. I had moments of happiness and where it felt normal and where I felt like I could just breathe for a second. And and I felt like I was so judged for that. And I'm sure my mom felt the same way. But it doesn't mean that it was easy. It doesn't mean that, just because I knew how my mom was, or could assume how my mom was probably feeling, or would tell her, talk to her and ask her if that's how she was feeling, it didn't mean that I wasn't angry. It doesn't mean now she's been, with him for a couple years now, and it's still hard. There's still weird shit going on, between all of us. Like, there's still weird boundaries that are, and not only that, like, me and my brother, yeah, but then we had these significant others that knew our dad, who are still with us. We're still with those same people, and they grieved my dad as well, and then they had to have, didn't have to have, but obviously they're going to, and they had emotions and feelings about my mom moving forward. And so not only did me and my brother have to navigate our own emotions, we are also navigating how our significant others feel on top of it. And trying to balance all of that. So like, if you are an adult child and one of your parents has died, and you are in a significant, you're married or whatever, like, you're in a long-term relationship, or a relationship where your partner had met your parent before they passed, like, they're grieving and they have opinion too, and that changes how you are going to feel and move forward about your still alive parent being in a relationship. It just changes everything. Okay. Let's talk. Let's see. I made some notes because sometimes it's kind of hard. Like, I pivot a lot. You guys know that. Let's see. Oh. Then let's talk about how, like, when you're a quick one. when you're an adult. Am I supposed to call him my stepdad? You know, like now that he's married to my mom, I do, because I respect him. He is a good man, and I do respect him. So I do call him my stepdad. Not all the time, not on every occasion. I'm not running around and saying my mom, my stepdad. I often say my mom and her husband, or mom and Eric, or Lisa and Eric, because that's their names. But I don't always refer to him as my stepdad. And I get weird when some people call him my stepdad. Actually, I get more when they say your mom and dad. That one pisses me off because no. No, that is not the correct way to say that. He is not my dad. He is my stepdad. He's a great man. I appreciate him. He is a kind man, but he's not my dad. He is my stepdad. He did marry my mom. But I had a dad. You know, when you say that, it feels like you're just dismissing who my dad was. And that's never gonna fly with me. Like, you might as well just tattoo it on my forehead. My dad was Bob. I'm not gonna say his last name. But, Bob blank. Because sometimes I feel like that's what I'm saying. But it's weird. I'm a whole ass adult. Like, I have my own family, and now I'm running around like I have a stepdad. Like, I don't know. I feel like as an adult, it's weird to try and take on like this new figure as the parent, who's gone. Do you even want to? You've never even had to process that idea, and it's very different. It's very weird. And I say to you, my advice is, if it's more comfortable to just refer to them as their name, or to make it clear, like with making your boundary with anybody, if you need it to be like, it's my mom's husband or my dad's wife, but it's not my step parent. Even if it is by technical terms a step parent, it's okay to make that boundary and say, no, I'm not comfortable with that, and it's not how it's going to be labeled when I'm having a discussion. That's okay. And it's okay to embrace them. Not everybody out here is marrying people that have lost, or just total dicks just trying to like ruin families. A lot of times they bring a lot of healing with them, and you also have to remember that these people oftentimes become a punching bag, unintentional punching bag. We kind of all make them a punching bag, so sometimes giving a little kindness isn't too much to ask for. It's hard though. It's really hard. It's hard because then, there's this also kind of a weird judgment, because you talk about childhood and you talk about stories, and then your parent, especially if you had like a traumatic childhood, or your parents were like a trauma bond relationship, and it was just kind of messy and bad, and there was addiction in it and stuff, there's judgment that comes, no matter what, there's judgment, questions, things that happen. So then you have, not only are you trying to accept this person, but now they are, trying to understand, and not fully, if they're a decent one, they're not trying to fully just put on there like, oh yeah, your parent that's dead was a total piece of shit for treating your whole family like that, but like becomes a time where it just gets weird, because they're gonna have to learn all these things about the past, or maybe they're not, but they probably should, and then there's that judgment, and then you feel like they're judging your parent who passed, and maybe you had a great parent and they're still judging them anyways. And not that my dad wasn't great, but like, he did have an addiction problem, so there's like a judgment there. And then like, sometimes it just gets weird. Sometimes it's just hard. Sometimes the only thing you can do is just create space. Sometimes the only thing you can do is just say, I choose not to have a conversation. You need to respect my boundary. I do not want to talk about this. You, in my presence, please do not refer to my parent as this person. If you cannot kindly speak about my parent who has passed away, then do not talk about them. Also, do not belittle my parent that's still alive for grieving my parent who is dead. You chose to be with him. You can suck it the fuck up and deal with it. Yeah. Sometimes you have to be the voice because your parents move forward and they think that they're okay to do it and they're not. And I hate saying sometimes you have to be the voice because that's like very codependent-y, I think, to say. It probably isn't healthy. But I feel like I sometimes I had to be the voice, you know, for my family. I hope that some of this is just helping, or at least relatable. God. Yeah. Ugh, when your parents date after your other parent dies, it is hard. It is so hard. Even if they get remarried, it's hard. Just because they get married again doesn't mean it makes it easier all of a sudden. It's not like we're just all running around, yippee-yay, ki everything's great. Like, we still have a parent who's dead. And it's okay to miss them. And it's hard when the pictures change out and there isn't, you know, your parents' clothes still hanging in the closet or their shoes by the front door or, you know, all of the pictures of your parents together that they've had on the walls for as long as you can remember, or the way that things used to sit, or the furniture in the house, or, you know, mom or dad's, you know, spot on the couch or chair, or, you know, just there's so many things that come into play when a new person comes in, and, you know, they're almost damned if they do, damned if they don't, you know. I just advise to make sure that you give yourself enough space and enough boundaries, and try to have some understanding, compassion. And I know that's asking for a lot because you're already grieving a whole fuck ton. But it might be the only way that you get to have a relationship with your parent that's still living in that time frame. And there's boundaries you can set too, like, hey, if you are dating, if you're gonna date, like, there's rules, you know, like, hey, you have to go on so many dates, or you have to see a person for so long before you bring them around me, bring them around the kids, have them at family functions, you know, stuff like that, or family functions at my house, whatever, because obviously you can control family functions everywhere. But, like, I'm drawing all over my hand, guys, with this pen. You know what I'm saying? It's just, there is no really right or wrong way. Well, there are, you know, but there is a million different right ways that you can move forward in understanding and dealing with your parent dating after your other parent dies. It's not fucking easy, but you can do it. And if they're a total D-bag, and there's a lot of telltale signs obviously right away that this is just not happening, like, one, you can always tell your truth to your parent that's still here. If they don't want to hear you, or they just don't want to, you know, they hear you but they're not going to change anything about it, then you need to choose to set some pretty big boundaries for yourself. And that might mean not having a relationship for a while with your still alive parent. And that fucking sucks, but that's the truth. And if you are going to be harmed, it's going to cause your grief to be heavier, if it's going to cause you to have more trauma, if it's going to cause you to go home and have issues in your own life because of the choices that your parent that is still alive are making, you need to make the boundaries. You need to make boundaries, and you need to cut off if you have to cut off. And I hate saying that, but it's the truth, because you matter. They get to do whatever they want to do, even if you don't like it. You can express that you don't like it, but at the end of the day, you still have to protect you. Okay? I think that we kind of talked about most of it. I mean, what we'll get out of it this time. We will talk about all this stuff again, I promise. But I just felt like this is something, you know, another thing that people really need to hear. And that gets overlooked, and that gets pushed by, and, you know, all the things, because Because it's just grief. It's just a part of grief. It gets thrown in the, it's grief. You know how big the can of grief is? It's insane. To just throw it over in the, oh, it's grief is not a fair thing to do. Not even a little bit. If you lost a parent, I'm so fucking sorry. I am. It doesn't matter how old you are, how old your parent was. It sucks. It's shitty. If you got, you know, many, many years, 50, 60 years with your 70 years, I don't know, with your parent, bless your heart for getting that many years with them. Truly. I mean that. Like, I'm grateful that you got that. If you're like me and you got 25 years with one of your parents and you're pretty pissed off at the world for taking, you know, just ripping you off on time, I'm fucking sorry too. Okay? It is not fair. It's not natural. That's not the way that the cycle is supposed to work. We're not supposed to lose them that early in our lives. But we did, and we're still here, and we're still thriving. And if you're listening to me, it means you're trying to figure it out and keep moving forward too. And I, you know, all I can say is just keep going, and I'll be here to try and help in any way that I can. It's the point of the podcast, to help everybody heal and rise the fuck back up, because we still have a life we have to live. Even if the people that we wanted to be in it no longer physically actually can. We still have to keep living, okay? Okay. I love y'all so much. So freaking much. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here, for listening, for, you know, just trying to get something out of my experience. I hope my experiences, my riffs, my thoughts, you know, they help. Even if they're, you know, we're not the same person, we're not going through the same stuff, I truly do hope that that they help, you know? So, you know, it's that time of the show where I say, I am on all the socials, so connect with me, please. Comment on my stuff. Hey, message me. If you message me, sometimes I don't get it right away, but I love listening to your stories. I try to take time to read everybody's story and at least reply once. I'm sorry if you replied again and I don't get back to you. Sometimes I have a lot of messages. But please still message me. I promise you I try my hardest to read everybody's stuff, and I really do care about your story. I do care. I'm going to try to build some more things. I really want to have an open forum at some point where we can kind of connect, talk, and build a community of all of us healing and moving through whatever we're moving through, even if it's not grief and it's trauma, or, you know, we're trying to be a better parent and we're trying to move through those generational bullshit curses, you know, things like that. But that's to come. I have lots of ideas in the works. Anyways, so follow me first. Natasha Lynn on Facebook. That's where I'm the most active. You want to get a hold of your girl, come hit me up on there, okay? I'm there. I'm there, boo. And then I am Natasha Lynn _official on Instagram. We are still baby stages, but we're working on growing. I do post a lot of the same content on there, some different stuff. Please feel free to support and go follow me and connect on all the platforms. I appreciate it. I really do. It helps support what I'm doing. It helps me grow, helps the podcast grow, helps things become, you know, real, where I can do big shit, which is what I want to do, is big shit. I want to be able to meet a lot of you guys in person and have these big conversations and help heal in bigger ways. Anyways, and then, you know, She's the Phoenix podcast on YouTube. She's the Phoenix podcast, I believe it is, too, on TikTok. But you have to request on TikTok. I'm not really big on TikTok. I just don't even really feel like you have to follow me on TikTok, honestly. Anyways, okay, those are my socials. Make sure that you leave a review or rate or whatever you can on the podcast. It helps the podcast grow. Share, please. If you feel like this resonated with yourself, share about the podcast. If you feel like this could connect with somebody else, please share with them so that they can get what they need out of this. Just as much as you can share, because it once again helps me, helps you guys. We're building community here. Yeah. Okay. I love you guys. Thanks for listening. This is called She's a Phoenix with Natasha Lynn. And I'll see you all next time. Bye.